glad you're here this morning. And Kurt, thank you, and whoever your troop is going to be for serving and being with us this morning too. So I'll let you take it over and we'll close the chat. If anybody has any comments or questions, go ahead and write them down. And Kurt's going to open it up for question and answer at the end, just so that's not distracting. So the chat will be closed. But go ahead, and Kurt, thank you so much for joining us.
Thanks, you guys. Hey, good morning, everybody. Kurt Alcoholic. So how we thought we'd do this today, because, they said, oh, 10, 11, and 12, that's 3.5 hours, half hour for lunch, right? And we're going to have some time. So I thought, geez, I don't want to listen to myself talk for that long. And so I called Don Coyes and asked Don to join. And he called me a little bit ago and he said, hey, I'm in the hospital, I might not make it. So we just roll with the punches here. And I called Mary Thayer and said, hey, Mary Thayer, I'm going to bring you into this. And so, I mean, that's what we do, right? We roll with the punches. So I'd like to start with a little prayer that I love this prayer. I think I saw it I think Tom posted it on Facebook one time. It was Elizabeth Lesser is the lady that wrote it. And it's just a little prayer, but it really, I think, encapsulates where we start from in a 10. And here's the prayer. Remove my veils so that I may see what is really happening and not be intoxicated by my stories and fears. Remove the veils so that I may see what is really happening and not be intoxicated by my stories and fears. Now I would end that with amen, but I say, oh. So we're on step 10. And let me just get the book out since this is a book thing. I got Joel sent me a talk Mary Thayer did on 11, which I really listened to yesterday. And thank God for the people that go before us, thank God for the ones that hold up the light, Mary's one of those people. There's a lot of people on here that I've traveled this path with for a long time. And I think it was David Shigematsu who read the promises yesterday in 9. And I won't quote the book to you. You guys know the book, but I'm gonna jump in. I got a little piece of paper here. I write stuff down because that's how my mind works. And then I go with that, and there's some things in the book. It says this thought brings us to step 10, which suggests we continue to take personal inventory and continue to set right any new mistakes as we go along. We vigorously commence this way of living. This is a way of living at this point. So, at this point, we assume we've done the first 9 steps. We're so there's been a transformation as far as that prayer. I'm not functioning. Let me back up a little bit just to kind of give you I'm not functioning, hopefully, or not as much from this condition of self that I was identified with. And I'll go back to, Dave and I talked about this last week. In the We Agnostics, it says we've been brought here by a certain kind, without knowing it, we've been brought here by a certain kind of faith. And what's the faith I was brought here with? The faith I was brought here with is I listened to a narrative in my head. It created stories. It created mental anxiety, which we call fears. And that was my reality. That's where I lived. And I had immense faith in that thought process. And I could even throw God in there and say, oh, I believe in God, but it was all from that thought process. It was just an idea. And so this condition of self that I just described is where I live from. And I didn't know there was anything else because that was my reality. And so how does all this fit into 10? Well, I think this is the whole step process. It's, you know, for a lot of us, we have a deep, deep collapse, or we're surrendered, and something comes in that's outside of the paradigm of where we've been living. And for me, that was a very revelatory experience. I could talk about the experience probably for 3.5 hours. The experience was about experiencing what Mary Thayer said in her talk in 11. She talks about when you enter the world of the spirit, you're not alone anymore. All of a sudden you realize, in fact, you could never be alone. That was just the place I lived in my head. See, that was a mental narrative. The main problem centers up there. See, I was never alone. I just thought I was alone. Keyword thought. And that's what was revealed in that revelatory experience, was that I had always been connected. I'd never been separate. That I couldn't be separate because everything was interconnected. And this is where some of the teachings of Don and Bill Bird and some of these other native guys really started to make sense. That we're all, you know, there's a quote, I use it a lot. I know Mitchell likes it. It's Ramana Maharshi says, somebody asked Ramana Maharshi one time, said, how do we treat others? And Ramana Maharshi answered, there are no others. That's from a different thought life. That's from a thought life that's placed on a higher plane. See, this is what the book's pointing to. This is what the book's talking about. So here's what I wanted to read. Since I have all this time, and of course nothing's organized here, especially since I'm doing it. These are the Al-Anon promises. How about that? Some of you guys probably haven't heard this, but these are profound. And I'll just read them and let you guys make your own determination. If we willingly surrender ourselves to the spiritual discipline of the 12 steps and work the program, our lives will be transformed. 1, we will become mature, responsible individuals with a great capacity for joy, fulfillment, and wonder. Though we may never be perfect, continued spiritual progress will reveal to us our enormous potential. 2, we will discover that we are both worthy of love and loving. We will love others without losing ourselves, and will learn to accept love in return. 3, our sight, once clouded and confused, will clear. We'll be able to perceive reality and recognize truth. 4, courage and fellowship will replace fear. We will be able to risk failure to develop new hidden talents. 5, our lives, no matter how battered and degraded, will yield hope to share with others. 6, we will begin to feel and we will come to know the vastness of our emotions, but we will not be slaves to them. 7, our secrets will no longer bind us in shame. 8, as we gain the ability to forgive our families, the world, ourselves, our choices will expand. 9, with dignity, we will stand for ourselves, but not against our fellows. 10, serenity and peace will have meaning for us as we allow our lives and the lives of those we love to flow day by day with God's ease, balance, and grace. 11, no longer terrified. We will discover we are free to delight in life's paradox, mystery, and awe. 12, we will laugh more. 13, fear will be replaced by faith, and gratitude will come naturally as we realize that our higher power is doing for us what we could not do for ourselves. Can we really grow to such proportions? Only if we accept life as a continuing process of maturation and evolution towards wholeness. Then we will suddenly begin to notice these gifts appearing. We will see them in those who walk beside us, sometimes slowly or haltingly, occasionally in great bursts of brilliance. Those who work the steps change and grow toward light, toward health, and toward their higher power. Watching others, we realize this is possible for us. Will we ever arrive, feel joyful all the time, have no cruelty, tragedy, injustice to face? Probably not, but we will acquire growing acceptance of our human fallibility, as well as greater love and tolerance for each other. Self-pity, resentment, martyrdom, rage, and depression will fade into memory. Community rather than loneliness will define our lives. We will know that we belong, we are welcome, and we have something to contribute. And that's enough. Pretty profound, huh? That sounds like the world of the spirit to me. I don't know about you guys, but that was the only thing I was ever looking for. That's what I found in the bottle of a bottle. I got a temporary sense of that, for just brief moments. And, most of you guys know my journey here was not a straight one, like most ours. We don't come in here and get perfect. I got sober originally in 1986. And, I'd like to say I worked the steps perfectly. That's probably why I drank it 19 years. Because I worked them perfectly. But what happened is exactly what it says in 10 when it says, it's easy to let up on the spiritual program of action. Probably the only part of the book says it's easy, huh? It's easy to let up on the spiritual program of action. That's what happened. I mean, I got involved in AA. Most of you guys know Lawrence, has known me a long time. We started the meeting in Santa Monica. There was a bunch of us that came out of a workshop in 1987. And we started a workshop at the bottom of Joe's building, and there was, I think, 30 of us. And then when that workshop ended, we started a meeting called 10, 11, and 12, Second Hill. And it was one of those meetings where if you hadn't worked the steps, you couldn't share. And you were cross-talked, and there was no love and compassion. Some people would call it love and compassion, but I've come to understand that was just ignorance. It wasn't love and compassion. And we were rigid, and we were, we were excited. Fritz, I remember Fritz said one time, he said, hell, if you're not excited about this thing, you miss something, You miss something. But, we're like anything when it's new and you don't have experience with it. Another thing Fritz said was, truth without compassion is brutality. That's what happened. Yeah. We didn't know that. I mean, and a lot of us survived, and to be honest with you, a lot of us drank, a lot of us went out from that original group. And I was one of them. And in 19 years, I picked up a drink, and there was a lot that transpired. It didn't just happen for 19 years and then drank. There's a slow process that took me out. But the bottom line was, the reason why I drank it 19 years was, I'll show you exactly what it was. See this, just imagine this being chilled to gray goose. can handle this stuff. That's why I drank. I got connected. And I lost connection. And like I said, it was easy to let up on spiritual program bags. You know, you get a little pissed off at the supplier, and you just put that little resentment in your knapsack. You don't think it's any big deal. It's just, it's no big deal. Get a little mad at the wife, you throw that in your backpack. You don't think that's any big deal. Then you go sponsor a guy and work with him, and you go to a meeting and you think, that's no big deal. And all that big deal, all that stuff you put in the knapsack builds up. Eventually it gets too heavy to carry, and that's what happens. That's just the way it transpired. So what does this have to do with 10? Well, it has everything to do with 10. Because there's another part in 10 that says, and it's funny it says this, it says what we really have is a daily reprieve. And I'm going to put the emphasis on really. What we really have is a daily reprieve contingent on the maintenance of my spiritual condition. Now, I have a friend that says this, and I've stole it from him. Most of the stuff I'm going to say I stole from somebody. It says the best way to maintain a spiritual condition is to be a spiritual condition. That's the best way to maintain, is to be a spiritual condition. So what does that mean? It means, well, Mary said, in her little talk on 11, she said, we're not alone anymore. One of the things I realized, and me and Coyce had this talk the other day, probably a couple weeks ago. Let me just take a quick flash through here, see if he's on here. Okay, then I can talk about him. He ain't here. What the world of the spirit means to me is that I'm now present. The world of the spirit, Bill talked about it being a fourth dimension. It's not a dimension, it's a spirit. It's outside of time and space. And what it means to be present means to be, I'm here. Meaning I'm not worried about the past. I'm not worried about the future. I'm here. I'm here with you guys right now. That's where I am. I'm here. I'm nowhere else. This is what it means to be enter the world of the spirit. Now, how does this tie into the book? Well, it ties into, I suffer from this condition of self, and I was misidentified as that condition. I thought that was me. And I'm here to tell you that condition of self is not me. It is an activity. It is not an entity. I'll say it again. That condition is not me. It is an activity, not an entity. And it derives from a narrative based on conditioning, belief systems, old ideas, trauma, culture. We could keep going on. I could keep going on. You see where I'm going with this? So when it says your thought life is placed on a higher plane in 11, or when you read the promises, you start to access what the book calls the consciousness of your belief. Whatever, it doesn't matter what the belief is. The belief is just a thought. It's just mental energy. We did a little talk on beyond belief a couple months ago. What is beyond belief? It's gnosis. It's knowing. And I don't mean intellectual knowing. I mean gnosis. I mean experiential, like knowing. Like something like a rose. When you smell the fragrance of a rose, you know it. See? Now, someone can tell you what the rose smells like. And they can describe it in a bunch of language, but until you smell the rose, you don't know what it smells like. So this is what we're talking about, gnosis. So when I say gnosis, somebody said this to me the other day. They asked me a question, do you believe in God? And I said, no. Well, that sounds crazy, doesn't it? Well, see, I don't believe, and this is I'd quote Merton on this. Merton says, once you know something, you don't believe it the same way you know it. anymore. This is part of the process of waking up. You start to see this great reality is a reality. It's not some mental concept I have in my head. Now, I had to start with a mental concept. That's where I started. But it was really difficult for me to live with that. I needed to experience this thing. I needed for this thing to be real. I needed it to be tangible. I needed it to be accessible. I love the way Bill says all these people gained access to and believed in. Listen to the order he put it in. Gain access to it, you'll believe in it, guaranteed. Once you access it, you'll believe in it because it identifies itself. Truth identifies itself. It doesn't need your help. It's true because it's true. So it has a certain resonance. And I use this example. Everybody hear that bell? Somebody died. You can hear it? Just listen for a second. Hear that bell? That's the difference. It has a different resonance. And all of us have the ability to recognize that. We all have the ability to intuit that. It's built into us. Now, did I know all this? No, I didn't know all this. I was trying to believe in all this. That just wouldn't work. This is why this thing had to be something personal. It had to be something, it had to be self-searching. I had to look. I had to do what the book said. I had to follow some instructions. I had to have people in front of me, Mary, Don, a lot of people, Bruce. I had to have a lot of people in front of me that were kind of pointing the way. I had to be able to have conversations with these people about it. I remember when I came back in and I was beat up pretty bad. I was at a conference and Mary took time to spend time with me. And I remember being shocked, because there was all these old timers at this one table and here she wasn't over there with them. She was over there with me. She was telling me, oh, honey. She said, oh, honey, God ain't done with you yet. And I'm like, well, I wish he'd get done because this is getting old shit. These were the people that, these were the light, these were the beacons. There were people that sat on the beach with me when I was drinking, Kristen. I remember sitting on the beach one Mother's Day, and Rhonda had taken the kids to the hotel because she's tired of having me around. And I got a pint of vodka and I was sitting on the beach and Kristen was sitting across from me and she said, I looked at her, I said, well, this is a fine Mother's Day I'm having. And she just shook in sadness. This is where we are. This is where we go. This is what happens to us. So, let me just read a little bit. It'll pull me into some of this. This is a way of living. Koya said this to me. He said, look, this is a way of living. This isn't, the 10th step isn't about stopping and starting all day long. This is about watching. And what I was talking about was we continue to watch. There's something that's awakened in those first 9 steps. Some people call it awareness. Our book calls it awareness. They call it consciousness of belief. Another aspect of ourselves. There's a bunch of ways to define this, right? Our thought life's placed on a higher plane. So it says we can do this. We start to watch from this place. I always say, get some popcorn, sit down and watch the show. That's my favorite kind of thing. It's like it's a more relaxed position of neutrality. See why I'm not burning energy foolishly because I'm not trying to manage life. See, I got that. And it wasn't that I was trying to manage life. It was this condition of self was trying to manage, because it needs me to do that. It needs my force, my energy to do that. And I just happen to be, the book says, I am a victim of a delusion that I could rest satisfaction if I managed well. I'm a victim of a delusion. See? That doesn't sound like I'm in much control, to be honest. If I'm a victim of a delusion, it doesn't sound like I might be under the delusion of control, but it doesn't sound like I'm in much control. So we start to wake up to this awareness. In our big book, it says, this awareness is the essence of a spiritual experience. Our more religious members call it God consciousness. What do we got? I think somebody just went to the bathroom. Somebody just flushed the toilet.
I thought that was you, Kurt. I'm sorry. I'm going to check that out.
No, that's not me. Oh, I hope it's not me. Anyway, so it says, we enter the world of the spirit. Our next function is to grow in understanding and effectiveness. So I've been talking about understanding and effectiveness, I think, a little bit. The effectiveness is, how do I bring this into the world? How do I bring this conscious awareness into the world? Everybody's got a different role with this. You know, in a traditional way, they say we're all original medicine. Everyone's original medicine. You have a medicine to bring. You were brought into the world. You have a medicine to bring to this world. Bruce's medicine is not going to be the same as Barbara's medicine. Rob's medicine ain't going to be the same as Mary Thayer's medicine. Joel's medicine ain't going to be the same as Clint's. We all have something to bring. We're an expression of this will. We are an expression of this will. You know, in some of the old traditional philosophies, they have in Hinduism, they have a god that represents this perspective I'm trying to put across. 1,000 arms and 1,000 eyes, right? Those 1,000 arms and 1,000 eyes are us. I mean, we're the hands, we're the Creator's hands. We're the Creator's lips. We're the spearheads of this ever-advancing creation. See, I'm going to just throw a bunch of this stuff out here so it all tries to stick on the wall. We're divine expressions of this will. So are the trees. So are the rocks. So are, in a native way, they say, my relatives. They say my stone brothers, the two-legged, the four-legged, the winged ones. These are my relatives. These all have an element of consciousness. I remember hearing Joseph Campbell talk one time about this vine that used to grow up a tree outside his lanai in Hawaii. And he said that vine has some consciousness in it. It knows to turn towards the sun. It knows what to do. See? So we think of consciousness as thinking. I'm trying to make a bigger picture of it, a bigger picture than just thinking. Because our thinking is very limited. So what this thing's saying is like, I'm supposed to go out into the world. I'm supposed to practice these principles. What are the principles? I mean, there's a great, I think it was in, what's the book? Was it Drop the Rock? I think it was Drop the Rock. I didn't care much for that book, but I did care for one reading it. Sorry about that. You will get opinions here. Let me see if I can find it, because it's a great reading. It talks about Bill talking about this. Bobby Joe might have it. Oh, well, we'll find it later. I'll find it during the break. So back to this. We enter the world of spirit. Our next function is this is not an over. It should continue for a lifetime. It's like, okay, well, that kind of takes the weight off, doesn't it? I mean, I love this. I've heard this from a lot of people, and I'm going to give it to Mary here in a minute. But we don't arrive anywhere. If we're present, this is where we arrive, right here. This is a moment to moment to moment movement. This is where we arrive. I'm not going to arrive anywhere. There's nobody to impress here. This is that I ran that game. I tried to be the guy in AA. That I tried that, man. That takes a lot of effort, and you have a lot of mental narrative that goes with that. It's critical. It's that. It's like, no, I'm just here. I'm here. I'm with you guys. So what do we do with this thing? We try to practice these principles. Well, I'll just put it in simple terms. If I lie, I need to correct that lie. I need to say, wait a minute, I just exaggerated. I need this awakened part of me to catch myself doing this stuff because it's a habit. A lot of this is habit. It takes a little while to get out of this process of living the way we used to live. And so we do inventories. We do this, says continue to take personal inventory. Well, if you just read the 10th step, you could interpret that a whole bunch of ways. But if you read it with the instructions in the book, it's a whole different ballgame. You could just read it and say, oh, that means I'm supposed to write inventory every day. Well, that's not what it said. It says continue to take personal inventory. It means watch. Watch for selfishness, dishonesty, resentment, fear, da-da-da-da-da. So what is that? For me, that was just how I managed and controlled my life through fear and self-propulsion. That's what it was. That's what I'm watching. I'm watching for how I manage and control or under the illusion of managing and control through fear and self-propulsion. And we talk about this in another group that I belong to. It's really not fear. It's mental anxiety. Fear is the highest intelligence of a human being. It's a God-given gift. It's a survival instinct. But what we say fear, and we talk about this in another group, is false evidence appearing real. False evidence means it comes from a narrative. See, if I lose my job, my head would kick in and say, oh my God, you're not going to be able to pay the bills. Oh my God. Then you start worrying about how much is in the bank account. Oh my God, what am I going to do? I'm going to be homeless. See, that story picks up, the bigger it rolls down the hill, the bigger it gets. And then pretty soon you have so much fear and anxiety, so much mental anxiety, it takes you completely out of the moment. You're not even here. You're sitting on the couch and nothing's even happened. See, this is the bondage of self. This is the bondage of self. And I couldn't get rid of that. I needed God's help. That's what it said. It said we couldn't be rid of this. We needed God's help. Well, that, to me, that sounds like I can be rid of it with God's help. That's what it sounds like. So I'm not being run by that. When these crop up, meaning they will, because we don't just get from point A to point B and we're done, like Mary said. When these crop up, we ask God at once to remove them. Why at once? Because that little ball that starts out as a little thing, once it rolls down the hill, it gets really big. That's why at once. The more mental story I put on it, the bigger it gets. Discuss it with somebody immediately. That doesn't mean call somebody and get them to jump on your story with you. I got screwed over at work. Oh yeah, you did. You really should retaliate. No, that's not what they're talking about. They're not talking about. I think what they're talking about is I need to call somebody that has some clarity that can bring me back to home base, like recenter me, right? Pull me out of my delusion. Make amends quickly if we've harmed anyone. These are all, this is all part of the steps, right? Then we resolutely turn our thoughts to someone we could help. Isn't it interesting? It doesn't say go help someone. It says turn our thoughts. From this point on in the book, I'm going to stop here and let Mary take it. From this point on in the book, it's going to talk about thought life, mental faculties. It's going to talk about thinking. It's going to talk about a lot that has to do with this thing up here. So love and tolerance of others is our code. So I'll give it to Mary.
Thanks, Kurt. Hi, Mary Thayer, alcoholic. I guess the gift of me calling at the last minute to share is a gift that is a daily reprieve. I don't have any idea what my day's going to be. I might have had a lot of thoughts on what it was going to be, but I don't know about you. At the end of the day, when I kind of review, it's never what I had planned it was going to happen. It's really, wow, this really is a day at a time. And if I had a whole agenda that was really going, I'd be disturbed. Thank God I'm not. And I have taken a whole bunch of notes because the gift of having met you and a lot of, you always tell that story. And from your perspective, my perspective, of course, was that I got the gift of looking into those eyes that were like a deer in the headlight, and behind that was a soul saying, please feed me. I'm thirsty. And when you have the gift of working with people or meeting people with that much undefended heart as you had, you were my blessing. The one thing I remember saying to you, and every time I listened to you because what I learned was when early recovery, for those who don't know me, I've been in the program since September of 1973, and I sobered up in North Hollywood. And for a couple of years, probably for about 3 years, they have a hospital down in downtown, County General, that the whole 6th floor was just alcoholics. And I used to go down with a bunch of people and we'd go around bedside and we'd ask them if they wanted to join us in the smoker for a meeting. We had smoking lounges on the hospital floors in those days. And they wanted to come because it was usually free cigarettes we'd give out. I really didn't care too much what we were saying, maybe. Those that could get out of bed would do that. But one of the things I realized as I did that is that as I walked around and asked if people wanted to join us, I found that probably close to 80–90% of the people said, oh, I've done what you've been doing. That fascinated me. I'd say, hi, I'm Mary, I'm an alcoholic. We have a meeting going on. Would you care to come? Do you think maybe you could be alcoholic? Most of them, they'd be so yellow. And by the time we left the floor, they'd be dead. But they would say no. So this is denial. This disease has a lot of denial in it. And I can so remember how I finally one day said, well, how did you get in this bed? It fascinated me. If they've been doing, I didn't want to be with that person was, my God, they didn't look well to me. And so I had a couple of years and they always said one of 3 things. They said that they stopped reading the book. That wasn't the sponsorship I had. I was into the big book. They stopped going to meetings. Again, never been my problem. Not at all. Because I just go to meetings. And the third thing was the thing that I continue to watch for, and that is that I had a problem and I didn't want to bother anybody. So when I looked in your eyes, how many years ago, whatever that was, And you kind of told me a little bit about how long you've been in and so forth. And that you somehow have been graced to be standing there in front of me, because a lot of those people, as you well know, aren't back. It reminded me of something Hugh Douglas, my sponsor's husband, used to say. We're kind of like a wagon train. Every once in a while, we'll send some scouts out. And if they have the grace of making it back, they will tell me, stay on the wagon, it's not nice out there. Now, not only was Kurt telling me that, but I said, oh, you need to do some stuff here. You need to tell people about this. And so when anybody tells me they've made it back after, especially the length of sobriety you have, I want to listen to every single word that you say, because I never want to go back to what I saw, and I never want to be where you were at that moment. So you have a message that has a lot of depth and weight, and plus the fact you were given, and you spoke about it this morning, an enormous amount of knowledge. And that's probably been one of the things that happened to me. At 19 years you went out. At 20 years I realized I was filled with the knowledge, just like you were. And I had a moment where I said, but why am I so frightened? I couldn't understand that. I couldn't understand why, if I have all this knowledge, am I not, like, I guess, arrived someplace, And my world changed as from that moment on, because something within me planted that seed in me. Okay. And I realized I had to reevaluate what it says. I just did another workshop on this, but the low spots and trials, that we're not going to get through them unless we enlarge on our spiritual belief structure, or what our perception is. Conception, doesn't say concept, conception. And am I enlarging on that? So I believe what it says on 129, that it's a limitless love. This is limitless. So how can I ever arrive if it's limitless? Can I arrive as a seasoned beginner? And that's how I describe myself. Because definitely the things that I am dealing with today were not the things I was dealing with 25 years ago, and there's different things. And so I have to get a new way of perceptions of what's happening in the reality of my life. And you hit so many things. I want to say that when I first came in, the woman that 12-stepped me said two things to me, and I still kind of bring them into my 10th step, if you will, 10th and 11th step. And that is that I was going to be the fish I had to catch. And anybody who knows me said, oh, I have little fishes hanging around, pictures and stuff, because I am the fish I got to catch. I'm the one I got to catch. And the other thing is the one that I think is profound but very truthful about what you were just talking about, was watch what I defend. She said to me, you don't have to tell me why you're defending, but you better ask yourself why you're defending. And she walked away. Brilliant woman. I didn't like her very much, and she had too much truth for me. But I am eternally grateful for those two messages she gave me. So what do I defend is kind of where it is for this 10th step. And again, as you and I realized, and we've talked on our own, I believe each step will bring me closer to a relationship with that presence of entering the world in the spirit. I can't get into the world of the spirit if I'm clogged. And it talks about that in step 4. It says that, let's see what's blocking me from the sunlight of the spirit. And it's so funny because it always starts with some kind of flaw in my makeup, a resentment, and the story I built around it. You're correct. And I see that more and more, how the minute I get frightened, there is like not conscious, now it's more conscious. The minute I get frightened about something, I'll develop a story about it to justify so that I'll be safe. A number of years back, I had gone through this pondering of what does safety really mean to me? And I realized my conception of safety was a lie. I kept defending instead of moving into something because I was frightened. It was all out of fear. My safety is fear. Do I have enough money? Do I have this? It doesn't make any difference. Do I have enough food? Do I have enough? It doesn't make any, whatever it is. So I couldn't really get clear because, as Chuck Chamberlain says, it's only the human being that's trying to get something outside of them to put inside of them to make them feel okay. And I did that with booze, people, clothes, property, money, property, and prestige, all of that. And the truth of the matter is that it diverts me from my spiritual thing. So in regard to step 10, I love step 10. I love step 10. It took me years, but I think it was right around 30-something years that I realized that I wanted step 10 promises more than I wanted any other promise. And the one promise I really wanted was to be in a place of neutrality, as it talks about. And that does not come unless I have God on board, unless I've entered the world of the spirit. And when you enter the world of the spirit, and I loved your gong thing that you did, because we've talked about this before, and a lot of you people know that at that 20-year mark, I kind of reevaluated my belief structure on what I believed in some higher source or God or whatever. If I could define God, I'd be God. And so I got out of that trying to define it. But what I realized was that there was an energy that I felt. And and I started to think, where do I feel safe and connected? And so that energy came from, right now, as you see, I'm always looking here. I'm looking at Tampa Bay. And there's an energy that comes off of that bay. It's 30 feet away here. There's so much going on out there. But it permeates me. It just, I feel it. The beauty of it is just amazing. I have a best friend. I think she's on here today. Missy, if you're on, wave at everybody. But she and I have been best friends since we were 6 years old. 6 years old. Cripe and I sponsored her for the last 42 years. I mean, there isn't a thing that she and I don't really share. Now, we don't even have to talk. She just has to, I know she's in the room, and I feel safe and connected. When I see Kurt come in, I feel safe and connected. Because just like that bell you gonged, the vibration of that moves. The day I met Don Pritz, I didn't know who he was. I was speaking up at Fox, the second one, and Tom was introducing me to everybody, and this man, this is so on. I just looked, and I turned and I looked in those eyes, and I started to sob. And it had nothing to do with his persona. It had everything to do with his connection to the world of the spirit. And if you're fortunate enough to stay in these halls, you will find people that will vibrate that energy. It's like in Bill's story, when it said there was something about Ebby. There was something about his eyes. And that was gone. That was the feeling. Now, how do you get there from here? Well, we are so blessed because we have a kit of spiritual tools. They're not weapons. I used to think the first step was a weapon. It isn't at all. It's really probably the most valuable tool because it's going to uncover the part that I can't, feel the presence of this presence. And it says that, I was just talking to Don about it this morning. There's this, in We Agnostics, the last sentence, I love it, says, when I draw near to God, he discloses himself to me. So right away, if you're doing this deal and you're doing the drill and you're just trying, you just want this, you already got it. You already got it, folks. Don't worry about it. This is going to happen. in your time and in God's way on how to develop you. And so I'm going to go back to one thing that I don't know if I spoke about it. I've spoken it sometime. I've been speaking a lot like dolphin. Yay. Sorry about that. The energy off of that is profound, just profound. So where was I? Oh, okay. So I believe that we're all an acorn, okay? The little nut, and I already packed it. I think Marie's on here who gave me this. An acorn is a little nut and it has a little hat on it. Oh, I have something. Hang on. See? It's a little acorn. Missy gave me this because that's all I ever speak about is that underneath this hard, crisp cap is this very smooth nut. We're all nuts, right? But it's perfect. We're all perfect little nuts, okay? And then we get born, and then our parents do stuff to us, the teachers, our friends, the political, money, property, whatever doesn't make any difference. All the externals get caught up in this cap up here. And my belief, this is just my belief, okay? I'm a little whacked, which you'll figure out after a while. After a while, what happens is that something hits that cap and it chips a piece off. It was like the day that I came into Alcoholics Anonymous and new light came in. And part of that nut was exposed. And my journey through the steps, because I do this pretty annually, is that little pieces of this cap keep coming off. So I get more sunlight of the spirit. And when I get more sunlight of the spirit, I feel safe and protected. I feel safe and protected. And I can't do it without somebody around me. And demonstrations that that presence is really present. And I've had many along my journey. So when I had my first really run through the steps, work this stuff poorly until you learn to work it well. Don't wait till you do it perfect because you'll never do it at all. You just won't do it because, I don't know, I guess you want to be God yourself. I did. But the reality is that I had to feel this presence in my life in order to be vulnerable, to live with an undefended heart. And I didn't realize that, just as you said something, I can't quote you verbatim, but you said something about getting on to a plane where there is no other God, whatever that quote that you just read or something. I answer to a higher source today. I don't necessarily, it's not that I don't care if people like me or not, but it's not necessary for me to be able to live when you're in a place of neutrality. And because I want that promise, I do this work. So what is it? I'm going to break down where I am with this. Is Dawn here yet? Do we know? Anybody know? Well, just wave at me. How long are we doing this thing?
Yeah. Dawn loud. So
somebody's talking, but I can't hear.
He's not here yet.
Well, anyway, how long are we doing this? Try that again. I had my speaker went off.
you're muted.
Hello?
Sorry, I was muted.
Okay.
I'm like, we were going to go about an hour, right? Open it up for some questions. Do we have time to do that?
Yes, let's open it up for some questions, and then we can take just a quick break, and then we can resume. So if you do have any questions, we're going to open up the chat.
Okay, Mary?
And yeah. Does that work okay for you, Mary?
Yes, it's fine.
Okay, fantastic. So we'll open up the chat. You can ask your questions in there, or you can just unmute yourself and just come on into the group and ask your question, or raise your hand and we can call on you either way. So feel free if you have anything you'd like to share, any comments or any questions, this is your opportunity.
I actually have a question for Kurt. I really appreciated Kurt and Mary. That was fantastic. I'm really loving this weekend. So when you said that you drank at 19 years and you were talking about these little resentments that you kind of just were storing away, How long had it been since you had gone through the work again?
It had been a long time because
Okay.
that's part of the, I could just say it this way. What I did was I got busy with property, prestige, money, started a business, got married, had some kids, all these things, all the things AA gave me were all the things that I used to distract me away from this thing. I mean, looking back on it, it's so obvious to me, and it was probably obvious to people around me. I see Lori went out with 20 something years too. And I talk to a lot of people that have time to go out. And, it's very, well, it's cunning, baffling, and powerful. This is the whole point about what I said about the daily retreat. This is really, really, for me, this is what's most important, that I go up and I go sit on the wall at the beach. And before I do anything, I get right with the Creator. And not that I'm not right, but this is just the relationship that's been formed. And then if something else, just like today, look what happened today. Here we thought, right, Mary? We thought Don was going to be speaking and I was going to be talking. And, this isn't how it goes. This is not life. Life does not happen that way. So you move. You're able to intuitively handle situations that used to baffle you, right?
Yeah, thank you, Kurt. I really appreciated that. And I love what Mary said. It's like when you share that message with depth and weight, because you had that experience. It's like I listened to every single thing you are telling me because I don't ever want to go back. And so I really appreciate what you guys had to say today.
Greg, let me tell you this. Let me tell you one of the traps I fell into. This was I see this all the time. I used the steps to manage and control my life. I was worshiping the menu, not the meal. And I didn't know that when I was worshiping the menu, because you can't know it when you're in it. But the fruits of my life would reflect that, meaning I was full of mental anxiety, I was anxious all the time, I was full of fear. See, my life was telling me what was true and what wasn't true. See, and this thing had not integrated, and I don't think it could have, to be honest with you. This is the benefit of people like Mary and people that have been around a long time. Most people know this. You have to grow into this thing. You have to be around here long enough for this thing to, like the promise said, grow towards evolution and maturation towards wholeness. You have to be around here long enough for this. We can't feed on steak when we're 2 years old. We choke to death. We got to have baby food, and then we work our way up. It's just metaphorically, it's the same way with the spiritual process.
I want to say one thing too about what you talked about years ago. I came in with Emmett Fox. I was a saint, I guess, drunken saint, reading Emmett Fox. But one of the things that he wrote in his Around the Year with Emmett Fox is the qualities of wisdom. And you kind of touched on that with what you were talking about with Koyas. Wisdom has two ingredients. One is knowledge, and the other is love. And if you just have knowledge, you're like a machete. I was like a machete for 20 years. And it was like, whang! And I'm kind of direct anyway. Some people might think I'm still kind of a machete. But the one truth is that if you can combine that with the love that's coming through in the cracks in the acorn cap, and you get some light involved with it, then you start to sprout, if you will, the essence of what's really deep down inside of us. And it's not about our egos. It's not about who we are. You know, I'm a seasoned beginner, you are, we're shoulder to shoulder. I'm not ahead of you, behind you, but we do have a common solution. And we do escape disaster together. I think one of the problems that I'm having more today than ever is people putting people on pedestals. And, you know, that's only human that you get someone on a pedestal. You unconsciously are going to tear them off. I'm always a little leery about saying too much because that's why I don't wear a speaker badge or anything. God, it's the last thing I want. You might think I know something. I mean, I've just got today, and I might not measure up very well today. So I'm grateful to find people like yourself, Kurt, and Dawn, and a lot of people that I know on here that just allow me to be just another bozo on the bus. Thanks.
Thank you so very much. I really appreciated that. We have a couple hands raised. I think, Joel, you had your hand raised first.
Yes. I hope I could voice this because it's more of a feeling than a thought. But I realize a lot of times when I'm in a position of neutrality, I find it kind of boring, or I don't know what it is, and like I'm addicted to drama. And I find some reason to fuck up that feeling of peace, ease, and comfort. Any thoughts on that?
I can tell you what my sponsor said to me one time when I was feeling, you know, that serenity or whatever I was feeling. And she said, "What's wrong?" I said, "Nothing." She said, "Oh, what's wrong? Nothing's wrong. That's what's wrong." I said, "Yes." And she said, "One day," she said, "that's called serenity, what you're feeling. And one day that will be natural for you and the chaos will be abnormal." And that's a process of growing to allow things to unfold the way God wants to do it. But I didn't know that then, Joel. I didn't know it. And, you know, it's always, to me, I had to look at why do I have to have that? And it was based out of fear. It was not out of faith. You know, whenever I find something, it's fear, that, you know, not out of neutrality.
Good to see you, Joel.
Yeah, always good
to see you guys too. I love you guys. You don't know how much you feed my soul.
Yeah, you feed ours. Thank you, Joel. Somebody else has got their hand up. Whoever wants who. Karen, there you are. Hi, Karen.
Hello. What great timing. So just to show how this rolls, I had just been texting Mary saying, "When are you speaking next?" Because I missed her on Thursday night and I really wanted to hear her. She texted me 5 minutes later going, "Well, I think I might be speaking in an hour because Dawn may not make it." And I got goosebumps. And everything you both said had just been just what I needed to hear. Surprise, surprise. But my question is, and it kind of follows up on Joel's, because Mary, I know that you are a woman of great passion about so many things. And I get so confused about the difference between neutrality and passivity. And how do you differentiate? I know you're not a passive person, but the neutrality is something I want, but sometimes I want to shake it up too. So help me with that.
My experience is that once I started to enter the world of the spirit, I was confused because there was a part of me that when you enter the world of the spirit, and when you get to step 10, you will get a God zap, if you will. I mean, most of us have, or we wouldn't continue to do this stuff. But my lie that I was lying, my delusion, was that once I entered the world of the spirit, I thought, well, that's it, now I've arrived. And in reality, I had never lived in the world of the spirit. I lived only about me, my selfishness. That was all. So I had never lived in the world of the spirit. And when I entered the world of the spirit, it's almost like I'm a 2-year-old. Oh, wow. Geez, I can stand up. Look I can hold onto the couch and stand up like a little 2-year-old would. And my illusion is that because I'm in the world of the spirit, I can now run across the living room and be fine. And the truth is, I take 2 steps and I fall down. Because somehow I've interpreted the world of the spirit as now I know, so now I can do. And I forget that of myself I am nothing. The power within will do the work. So as I read that there was a poster my father's cousin had in one of his rooms, and I used to look at it all the time. And it showed a man could have been like on the Grand Canyon, standing out on the very edge of the Grand Canyon. And the wording was, I might be alone, but I'm not lonely. And so I am a person that is amazing. Well, I live life as an adventure, not an obstacle course. This is an adventure today, Kurt. Whoa, okay, let's see what happens. I don't know what's going to happen. But, I do know one thing. I feel safe and protected with so many people that I love are on this call, that you've touched my life at so many different angles. So I guess when you have how do I want to say this? Well, I'll just use Missy again. Missy and I don't have to talk a lot. I mean, sometimes I go and I visit her, and she has a habit of reading 10 newspapers before she goes to bed. So I just say, good night, see you later. And I just go to bed, and she reads her newspaper. And it's kind of like, I don't have to do anything or say anything or create anything to feel safe and protected. When you have an energy with you that is better than a human best friend. God shows me dolphins and whatever. So I don't know how to say that. I guess it's as we enlarge in our spiritual belief and we really are in the world of the spirit, it is a different place. It's a knowing, as you said, whatever that word you use. It comes from within. So my journey's from my heart to my head. It's not from my head to my heart. Thanks. I can't put this stuff in words. It's hard.
Yeah, it's very difficult.
It's kind of like you said, if you've never tasted chocolate ice cream, how can you?
Well, I want to say, let me say something real quick on this. So this neutrality is not in action. It's not in action. Neutrality is not in action. That's what my head thinks. It's in action. That's not what neutrality is. Krishnamurti says it's an action that comes from a completely different place, which that's what I think. That's what Mary was saying. It's a completely different energy. The other part of this is this, and we're going to get into this in 11, where it says, be quick to see where religious people are right. It does not say be quick to see that religious people are right. And this is a huge distinction, because what happens is with this resonance that's awakened, and we start to go into different wisdom traditions, we start to hear that resonance in those wisdom traditions. And we go, oh, they say that in the big book. Oh, they say that. And what you find is this room that you've been in, that you thought we were the only ones that had it, this thing's been around for 8,000 years. And you start to hear different people. You'll start to hear different people. And what that does is, the metaphor I use, it takes the picture from black and white to color to high def color. And it starts to take a whole different shape and reality to it that you're living from. People aren't attacking me. They're acting out of their own fear the same way I was acting out of my fear. It's not a personal. But every once in a while I'll get caught, and then when I get caught, then what's that? That's what 10's about. Anyways, we got some more hands.
Mike, did you want to go ahead and, I see your hand raised. You want to ask your question or make a comment?
Sure. It's a blessing that I've been kind of hooked up with this fellowship of the Spirit. God's been kind of corralling me whether I like it or not, because I didn't know where to go. I've been in and out of the program since the early 80s, 83, I think that was my first treatment. I bounced around in the program until about 92, in and out. Kept going back to AA. I didn't know why I needed to go, but I just had the feeling. But anyway, I had a gentleman that helped me through the steps. He saw that I was struggling. I couldn't tell a defective character from a shortcoming. And I don't know what happened there, something magical. He just told me to do this. He says, I wish I could be around here to help you, but I won't be. And I was living in where the Mayo Clinic's at. He was a patient there. And I had a spiritual awakening as a result of the steps. And so when you talk about the white light, I know what we're talking about there. And I was able to experience that for like 3 days with prayer and meditation. When I went to sleep and I woke up in the morning and the light wasn't there, I was freaking out and going, oh God, it's gone forever, So, I got to my knees with my face. I was prostrate trying to pray to get that light back, and it came back for like 3 days. And then I had the vision for you. I could see myself, and I actually listened to it, and it got bigger and stronger, and kind of like what Mary was talking about. Hey, I got it. I can run now. The light shut off, and I haven't seen it in 30 plus years. I've been bouncing in and out of AA, sober, drunk, sober, drunk, sober, drunk since. And, I express it to people that are in the program. I talk to them about the sunlight of the Spirit. They look like I need more medication or get off the ones that I'm on. And it's so frustrating. When the sunlight shut off, I didn't have anybody to express it with. What happened? What did I do? How can I get back in? And kind of like what Mary was saying, God, one reason why God gave me the experience is so that I would keep coming after it. I guarantee that. It's kind of like once you've tasted chocolate, nothing else but chocolate will do. Same with the alcoholism. But my question is, do I need somebody that's in that sunlight to help draw me back into it? Well, I can't find anybody that can help me. Nobody's helped me, And I did the BBA thing last year, and the guy didn't tell me it was BBA, but I had a small experience, but no sunlight. And I'm still here. Thanks.
I'm chewing at the bit to answer this. So I have heard that, I don't know how many times. So let me just give you the perspective from where I'm looking at it from. So what happens when we have these awakenings is the first thing that gets a hold of it is our mind, our interpretation. So what I would say is that you said you had this experience and it disappeared. What I would say is, no, it didn't disappear. It's still there. You reappeared. That's what happened. It didn't go anywhere. It's never gone anywhere. It's always been here. What happened is you reappeared. So I used to describe this, I had this awakening and I was, that's the way I described it. And then I had a completely different shift in the way I saw it. It wasn't I had the awakening. You hear what's come first? I had the awakening. What happening was, when this awakening happened, I disappeared and in the condition of self. And when the condition of self disappeared, guess what was there? What was always there had never been absent. What was that? Love, unconditional love, peace, grace. See, what happened was the access to that was possible because I disappeared. What happens when we disappear? There's a deep surrendering process and we're opened. Like Mary said. Mary said the process she described was was the acorn without the cap. And it's this thing is you're connected to this thing. It's pulling you back, just like Mary told me. It's pulling you back into this thing over and over and over and over again. And you know, I mean, I don't have a magic elixir for it, but when I listen to you, I just go, "Oh my God, this is the mind describing what this is." And this is why it's so crucial that what we really have is a daily reprieve. Today, right now, this thing needs to stay right here, right now. You're on this meeting, no accident. This is happening. Thy will is being done. It's happening right now. It doesn't need to happen. It's happening. I'll leave it at that.
I just want to jump in and say one thing on this. I have had numerous profound spiritual God zaps, and I had such a profound one. I was in this is kind of weird, but I'm weird, but you know, there, especially in Southern California, it's very weird out there. That's why I love listening to Kurt. There's all these weird people out there that really study different things and all this stuff. I'm in the halls and I meet this dude and he has a Gurdjieff group. So I went, for you who don't know who Gurdjieff is, Gurdjieff was a Russian mystic, and the modern day Gurdjieff is Eckhart Tolle, okay? But in this Gurdjieff group, I was in this thing for 2 to 3 years. It was profound. I had the most profound spiritual light, whatever. It lasted friggin' 3 days. I don't often talk about this. It's very funny. Hey, I'm supposed to talk about it, I guess. And so I had this profound thing happen. I'm not going to go into it, but it was profound. So after it left, I remember in it, I was so being guided by something. I don't know what it was, but I woke up and I went like this, and it was like something said, "She wants to know if we're still here." Oh my God, it was profound. It was just amazing. And so I thought that was the only way I would ever hear from this presence. My mistake. My mistake. And I think probably 5, 6 years went by, and then a voice came, and then I was getting this voice. This is where you live. This is, geez, this is amazing. This is how it's going to come. And I missed all the days, just as you just said, Kurt. The presence is present right now, and is trying. It's what it says. God is constantly revealing to us. It's not once in a moon or whatever, but I have to be open to whatever way that is. And if I can go through, we're all afraid of suffering. Did you ever notice if you suffer on the other side of it, you're closer to this great experience? My sponsor used to tell me, you're suffering, hang on to your ass with both hands and shake it out. Don't drink, don't use, and don't kill yourself. I promise you'll be closer to God. So why are we so afraid of suffering? We've all suffered forever. But, I promise you, if you can do it in recovery and should say to me, hardest thing you'll ever do is sit still and feel the pain. We have to sit still. This pandemic's been wonderful. Not only for us, we had 11 more steps because our lives were unmanageable and we were powerless. At least we had some steps to use afterwards. The majority of the world don't. They don't know what to do. Their lives are unmanageable. But the world is waking up, and there is a presence that's present for all of us. Don't think you know that because you got the white God zap, that just is to let you know you're on the right path. When my spirit awakens, I'm telling you, it's not necessarily feels good because I see what is. But there is one thing that I live by, And that's I show up, I pay attention, and I tell the truth. I'm not attached to the outcome as much as I used to be. And Kurt, you say it this way, I'm not worried about something that hasn't happened. You know, it's like those are amazing things when they happen. They really are. So that's my thoughts on it. So whoever you are that was just talking, you know, Mike, you have a message to carry here. You're here today. Thank you, God. Yeah. You heard something maybe, and maybe a little chip of the acorn cap has come off and you'll get some light. Keep waiting. I'm telling you, that presence will present itself again. And when it does, you must be ready.
I would say that present just presented itself.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah, probably true. Yeah.
I got a friend that says you got a free sample. That's a good deal.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Well, somebody had a hand up. Who's anybody else?
Mike, I think Mike, you had your hand up.
Yeah, well, see, part of my deal is I thought you're supposed to live in that sunlight for the rest of your life. That's what I'm after. No?
No, you don't arrive. You got to do the drill every day.
Well, the drill's good. I mean, I've had experiences since then, quite a few. You know, the great thing about that awakening, though, is that I can still hear his voice. I have for 30 years. I don't care whether I was drunk or sober. The God that never leaves you or forsakes you, that's the one I don't really have a name, but that's the one that goes along with me. But I can hear you guys is the point. There's the reason why I'm here is because my ears of discernment, I can hear the spirit out of everybody that speaks in this group. And you're right, it's not by accident that I'm here. And it's not by accident that I went through the BBA thing like a year ago. I'll talk about it when I'm not holding up the show here, but
you are the experience, Mike. It's not you had the experience. You are the experience. There's just separation when you go, I had the experience. That's just separation.
My vision's blocked up.
You are, well, no, it isn't. You're hearing today. You just said you could hear this thing. That deep, that great reality is in you. How could you hear this if it wasn't there?
Yeah.
Amen. Good point.
How about Jimmy?
I think Kim was first.
Oh, go for it.
Thank you.
Hi, I'm Kim from the UK, recovered compulsive overeater. Oh my God, thank you so much, Kurt and Mary. I've just so enjoyed listening to you. I shared yesterday on my steps 2 and 3 and my journey from atheism to agnosticism to this feeling of having God within me and around me. And listening to you, Mary and Kurt, it's like, and I'm a baby, you know, I'm that baby that's toddling across the living room at the moment, really scared. I don't want to trip up and fall and I don't want to lose this. So listening to you, it's just made me realise it's like, I've loved, I did it through, I've done the OA 12 steps. And I then did the Big Book Awakening 12 steps, and I do 2-way prayer. And my first concept of any sort of form of higher power was the love. And I had to have a vision of that, and I made it the heart emoticon that pulses that you get on your phone. So that was my first feeling of any sort of higher power. And that's gradually turns into this like powerful feeling that I can feel inside me, and that talks to me, that guides me, protects everyone I love. Like I've stopped worrying about, you know, what's going to happen with, you know, my mum was very poorly recently. I thought I was going to lose her, but I just felt such peace and serenity around the fact that God was looking after her. And this is from a woman who was such an atheist. When I walked in those rooms, I just had no idea, no concept whatsoever of how I was ever going to get to where I am now. So, well, for anyone that struggles with that, just keep working at doing the work. And I never want to go back to the chaos that it's not just the food for me, the chaos of my whole life. I never want to go back to that. And like you, Mary, I just want to work my socks off. I want to keep my legs of the three on the stool, my 3 legs of the stool firmly on the floor. I want to share what I've been so freely given. I just love this workshop. I just love it. And I just feel so blessed. And to hear both of you today was just, when you said about your dolphin, I want to see your dolphin. I live on a I live on a marina, so I live by water as well. Oh, and there's just something powerful about living near the water. It's like amazing. So thank you so much. I just really have enjoyed listening to you today. Thank you.
Thank you, Kim. And Jimmy, you had your hand up.
Hey y'all, my name is Jimmy. I'm a grateful recovered alcoholic, and my thought life is on a much higher plane because of it. Thank you so much, Kurt and Mary. I had never heard of y'all until this whole pandemic thing had happened and stuff. So, my great grand sponsor is Don Fritz. I never got to meet him, but I was given all this audio of him and Mark Houston and 10 and 11 and 12, and Don talked about being on time and not necessarily 10 minutes on this side or 10 minutes on that side, and just that God is so hard to speak in words, but words are all we have. That is a quote from Thomas Merton. But you echoed a lot of the things that I feel that I've been trying to explain to people, the harmonics, when you're hitting the bell wrong, that disturbance, that disturbing noise is radiating around, that's vibrating into the world, and that's the disturbance that other people are feeling. But when you hit that perfect harmonics, you start to get into what they call in art as the negative space, is the space, around my body, which is the space between, but it's not actually a negative space, it's a positive space, because that energy that is everything that's God is part of that space between too. That is what keeps us connected, that there's no separation between us, because of that space between is actually the energy that's going on as well. And when I get my harmonics tuned in, then that positivity that I'm putting out, I'm getting back, and I'm getting that back from other people, and they're feeling it as well, and they can tune into my harmonics as well. And I'm so thankful that I heard Kurt on Ollie's thing, and Mary on there too, and got into Sam, and it's just wonderful how these things have transpired through, that I've gotten to these people that were so connected to Don that I never got to meet. I got to meet Mark one time, and it was just, he spoke about God in such a way that I'd never heard. And I just thank you, and I see Dawn on here as well, that I see you at Sam's meeting and stuff, and you guys are just, you speak in such a way that resonates, and it affirms the things that I've been trying to tell people, that they don't understand, that these spiritual awakenings are like a Russian doll, but I don't know which way the Russian doll is going to open, and it just keeps opening, and there's something new underneath each time that I do it. And I thank you so much for this. I was supposed to go to my silent meeting this morning, which I have, that we pick up trash and we say the Serenity Prayer and watch the sun come up, and we have dolphins come by every once in a while, and that's a very special thing. When Mary said that just brought tears to my eyes. But it's been raining the last couple of days, so God brought me here to listen to y'all in person, and it's just me being on time. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Looks like we have one more hand up, and Kurt, I'm going to ask you,
take a
Mary.
break.
Yeah, Darcy, do you mind holding your question so we can take a quick break, and then we'll come back in just like 10 minutes. So right now it's 11:31. How about we meet back here in 9 minutes at 11:40, and